Facebook or YouTube, welcome to Money Study Group. This is the online course for serious students of personal finance at the University of Houston, Bauer College of Business. So now I'm going to jump over into Zoom, and I'm going to let some people in, if I can. I'm trying to learn all my technology. This is fun. Welcome, everyone. If someone there in Zoom, I'm letting folks in Zoom. If you're coming into today's meeting in Zoom, if you could let me know you hear me. Someone, please say yes, I hear you.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, I hear you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to talk about financial planning today. That's what we're going to talk about for the entire class. So welcome aboard, everybody who's here. Can I turn the camera around and show everybody who's here? Anybody object? So here you go. This is a first. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, I got it. Can you see? Everybody wave to the internet people. That's being posted on YouTube and Facebook and the entire internet. So there we go. Okay, we'll give everybody a few minutes to come on board until 5 minutes after. Folks are still coming on board. In the meantime, if anybody here has anything you want to ask, now's a great time to do that. Questions, comments, criticisms, funny stories. No? Notice the class is small. Those of you who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, I hope you'll leave a comment. Let me know you're there. What time did you get here? Go ahead and post that in your comments. And if you're on Zoom, please do the same thing. Just chat in, put your time. Again, we're not taking roll. It's a lot of work to take roll, and I'm not doing it this semester. So you get the option to come to class or attend via Zoom. Watch on YouTube, watch on Facebook. So here we go. Another student coming into the class. We have 5 more students to admit into the Zoom room. 6 more students. Okay. Welcome aboard. Hey. So we are going to talk about financial planning. You're going to be building a financial plan this semester. You're going to do that online. I'm going to walk you through the whole process. But I thought today, in addition to talking about your assignment this week, I thought I would just give you an overview of financial planning. Kind of from my perspective as a certified financial planner, I want to share a little bit about financial planning, what it is, how it works, why it works, and why it's part of your course objective this semester to build a financial plan. So I'm going to kind of set the table for financial planning. And that's what we're going to do. Let's see, it's only 2 minutes after. So far, nobody's asked a question. Let me see if we have anything in the chat box. If you've got questions in the chat room. I'm working on my MacBook Pro. I'm used to working on a big Mac with a huge screen, and I don't see so well, so it's a little challenging. So I see everybody on Zoom. You're chatting in with the time. But just so you know, if you have a question or a comment, you're welcome to speak up or even put it in the chat box. I see messages, but I don't see any questions. So Daniel, you're not in class. What's up, buddy? Where are you? Oh, that's Daniel. I'm thinking of a different Daniel. I have a Daniel in my 11:30 class. And it could, yeah, no. I have a Daniel in my 11:30 class. He was one of that small group of people who was very, very clear that he expected us to be in the classroom face to face. So I saw Daniel's name and I'm thinking, wait, it's a different Daniel though. Okay, we still have a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and get started because it's, I'll try to remember, I gave everybody the standard reminder that if you come to the Zoom meeting after 5 minutes after the hour, I will not admit you. because it's something I have to do during class, is watch this Zoom to see if people are coming in. And so once I get started, I don't want to go back and repeat what I've said. So if you don't join by 5 minutes after, you're going to have to watch it on Zoom, on Facebook or YouTube. So we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you have questions, if you post those in Facebook or YouTube, I'll try to answer them. I don't always check every comment on Facebook and YouTube every week like I should. But if you have a question in the Zoom room, now's a great time to ask. Nobody's got questions, so let's get rolling. It looks like it's time. Yes, it's pretty close. So we're going to talk about financial planning. In this course, for the last 10 years, and in my career as a financial planner for the last 15 years, I've asked a question when I meet with people for the first time. I ask lots of questions, but one of the questions that I ask is, what's your definition of a financial plan? What is financial planning to you? So if you came to my office and you said, I want to hire you as a financial planner, I want to engage in the process of a financial planner, I need a financial plan, I would ask, tell me what you think it is. So before we get started, does anybody want to tell me what your definition of financial planning is? Yeah, I see a lot of smiles. Charles, you're a consistent contributor. Speak up.
Hello. Okay. Well, if I were to engage your services for financial planning, then that would mean that I have a particular, spending amount of money, spending amount that I want to reach, or that I want to like control. Maybe like my spending is off the limit, off the charts, and I need to be able to like control it so I can meet my my income. Or there's a certain amount of savings, or a certain amount of financial plateau that I want to reach, and I'm gonna ask you to help me be able to help me understand how much money I'm supposed to be spending, how to organize my money, and also I will ask for investments options, just so I can reach my financial goals.
Okay, cool. So basically what you did just now is you gave a pretty good answer for the definition of financial planning for more than one person. You said if you were trying to figure out how you make your money go further, you're spending more than you're making or whatever, you need to get that zoomed in and fixed. That's one reason you would engage in financial planning or hire a financial planner. But the other one was, the other end of the spectrum is maybe you've got a certain amount of assets or money that you want to use, and you want to hire someone to help you use it to the most, so that you can use it the most effectively, it sounds like. Is that anyone else? That's right, by the way, Charles. Appreciate that.
You can make a financial plan if you want to reset goals in your life, whether it's for retirement or education. You can make a plan for how you want to save and spend.
Yeah, that's good. What's your name?
Campbell.
Campbell has a great, you can't see Campbell, you can't probably hear Campbell, but she said if you'd make a financial plan because you have certain goals in your life, like retirement or funding education for one of your kids or maybe even a grandchild, and then maybe you wanted, what was the third thing you said?
Just saving and spending, how to manage that.
Yeah. So just how to manage spending and saving and how to manage those goals. So that's good. That's great. That's right. And so, different people have different definitions of a financial plan and financial planning. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But essentially, I was going to bring some props. I usually have some props when I teach. Something that I show you, I hold up to the camera and I show you, and I forgot them. So no props. But what I was going to bring you is a copy of my book, Make Your Money Count. It's a hardcover book, and it's called Make Your Money Count. And in that book, it's really a book about financial planning. The subtitle is Connecting Your Resources to What Matters Most. So the book is, oh, hey, by the way, we talked about last week emergency funds, and I told you I'd introduce you to Lucy. Remember that? We were talking about emergency funds and dogs. So that's Lucy. I guess it was my 11th, it was my 11:30 class when I asked, what would you define as an emergency? It was if my dog got hurt. So did I tell that story to you guys? I don't think so, because I tell different stories in each class, and I can never remember which class I told this story to, but it was a funny story. Sorry you missed it. But anyway, I promised them I would introduce them to Lucy, so I put a picture of Lucy up there. Nobody seems to care. Nobody's touched, moved, or inspired by Lucy, who I love, so forget about that. So when I wrote the book, Make Your Money Count, what I did, I was a financial planner. I was a relatively new certified financial planner. And, the idea of a financial plan to me as a professional who was trying to help people, it was a very big challenge because when you do financial planning, especially if you study to become a certified financial planner, what happens is there's so much information. And so that's what I want to help you understand today, is that even though there's so much information involved and you're going to get exposed to a ton of information this semester, it really helps to bring it all together and to put it into some kind of format that helps you be clear about your plan, your goals, the steps that you're going to take. And by doing that, I found you get a higher level of confidence. But the key for me to financial planning is to be able to make financial decisions in the context of your financial plan. So people come to me all the time and they ask questions. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I pay off my house? Should I borrow money to, buy a house, or should I pay cash? I have cash. I could pay cash from my house, but interest rates are 1%. What should I do? And so they're good questions. They come to me because I'm a financial planner. But here's what I almost always tell people. Here's the answer that I typically always give you. If you ask a question about what should you do in your financial life, I always say you should have a plan. We should develop a plan so that this question is in context. Because when you do something when you make a financial decision, it's one thing just to go and look at that one decision all by itself. Does it make sense? Does it make sense for you? Just like the mortgage question. Let's say you had enough money to buy a house for $250,000, but you could qualify for a loan at a very low interest rate, and you get to deduct that interest from your taxes. Which one should you do? That seems like a simple, easy, cut and dried question, right? But it's a lot better to ask that question in the context of your financial plan. So once we gather all the information so that I can see your financial plan, then I can answer that question for you in a specific way that's better because of the way that it fits into the context. So the reason that I'm showing you this blueprint, which is something we're going to talk about today, is because I wanted to set the table with my experience becoming a financial planner so that you could relate to it a little bit, as this will be I'm assuming, this will be your first experience creating a financial plan for yourself. So I want to kind of give you, I want to give you kind of an advance, here's where we're going and here's why. But when I built, I didn't bring the props, but the book that I wrote, the metaphor that I used the blueprint for financial success. And it's a big blue blueprint, and that's what you're seeing there on your screen or up there. I wanted to bring it and show you. I will do that at some point. But the blueprint is an actual blueprint. And so when I became a financial planner, I would sit that down and it would help me keep on track when I started to do a financial plan with a client. So we'll talk a little bit about that. One of the things we talked about last week, I think we talked about it in this session, but I know we talked about it either in this one or the second one, is that when I became a financial planner, I discovered that even though I was in a very wealthy environment, the clients that I served, I was a State Farm agent when I became a certified financial planner. And my State Farm agency was in the wealthiest zip code. I think it's the second wealthiest zip code in the country, 77062, Clear Lake, Texas. And so there were tons of very expensive homes, country club, Bay Oaks Country Club, and the majority of my clients lived in that very wealthy zip code in very large houses. They drove very, very nice cars, and my assumption was, what? That they had money. But the truth is they didn't really have, most people didn't have a lot of money. Most people were in one of these four groups. And I was surprised to learn that even if you live in a very expensive house and drive a very nice car, you can still be buried in debt. And you could still be in a situation where you have so much debt that maybe you're not buried in debt. Maybe you're actually just living paycheck to paycheck, even if you're making a whole lot of money. Even if you're living in a very nice house, driving really nice cars, you could still be living paycheck to paycheck. So when I wrote the book, Make Your Money Count, I wanted to frame it for these four kinds of people. And the third kind of person that I have experienced in my life, and it's probably the kind of person that I tend to be the most, I've got money in the bank. Like I have lots of money in the bank, but I'm still worried about losing it. Aiden asked me this morning about day trading. Do you day trade? And occasionally, I don't want to admit it, but yeah, sometimes I day trade. Like I'll buy something in the morning, sell it in the afternoon, like I did with Amazon last week. I bought it during the day, I sold it in after hours, and I made good money. But why do you do that? Why would somebody spend that much time and energy and focus trading? It's because they want more, right? And so I fall into that trap on a regular basis where I've got money in the bank. I've got more money than I'll spend, than my wife and I will spend. But I still find myself being anxious and worrying about, do I have enough? Do you get that? Does that make sense? So that's one of the four kinds of people that in my experience, in my work, I identified, and I wanted to try to help them solve their problem. And to me, financial planning is a solution to a problem. And so with respect to the four kinds of people, obviously if you're buried in debt, having a plan that can help you focus on getting those debts reduced and getting out of debt is a very valuable thing. And you're going to do that this semester. You're going to create a strategy for paying off debt, and you're going to experience what that's like. Even though you may be using pretend credit when you do it, I'm going to teach you how that works so that you can become very confident about debt payment strategies. So for people who are buried in debt, it's very important, very valuable. And for people who are living paycheck to paycheck, who are just barely above water, to have a plan to tighten that up, to try to find ways to improve your situation, a financial plan, financial planning is a very valuable solution. So that's one of the reasons I became a financial planner. And then I've experienced this several times with other people. I wish I could teach myself this, but I've experienced with other people who came into my office, did not have a plan, but had a whole lot of money, but they just didn't know how much money they had in the context of their life. And so when I helped them put a plan together so that they could see what they could afford, it was like anxiety disappeared. and they were able to experience more contentment. And so that's the fourth kind of person that I have that really is the goal always for me. And it was the goal when I wrote the book, Make Your Money Count, connecting your resources to what matters most. The book is about financial planning, and it's about a way to do financial planning that helps you move from whichever one of these four kinds of people you are to a person who is more full of purpose and contentment. So that's what the book is about, and that's what I'm going to try to teach you this semester as we work together to build your financial plan. So the question is, and this is the third law of personal finance, the law of purpose and commitment, but you first have to really think about and consider what matters most to you. And when I say that, I'm talking about what is your vision for your life? What are the values, the core values that make you who you are, that make you your life what it is? So your values kind of are a reflection of your purpose. And if you're not, it's difficult to get clear about your purpose, especially when you're young. But as you get older, you question, what is my purpose? What is my purpose for being on this planet? And so my hope, my goal, my focus in writing Make Your Money Count and doing financial planning with you is to help you kind of keep that always top of mind. Like, what is your purpose? What are your values? What's your vision for your life? I asked you the question early on. If we were to fast forward the clock, I think I asked you this question. If I didn't, it should be in your online course. It's one of the questions I ask at the beginning of every semester. I think I asked it here, but we're shifting platforms and I may have not asked you. But the question is, one of the questions I ask in addition to what's a financial plan is, if you were to move the clock forward 3 to 5 years, what kind of progress would you need to have in your life? What would need to change or happen in your life for you to feel good about the progress you made? So think about that for a minute. If we were sitting down just one-on-one and we were having a conversation, I would ask you the question, just like I ask this question to prospective clients and to existing clients. So as your financial planner, I want to help you. I want to help you achieve what matters most in your life. So help me understand what that looks like for you, your vision, your values, your purpose. So if we were to fast forward the clock 3 years, what would have to happen in your life for you to feel good about the progress that you made? Now, maybe it's not financial. Maybe, like if you're me, you'd be like, yeah, I'd still like to lose that 50 pounds that I've been saying I want to lose for 20 years. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's what needs to happen in your life for you to feel good about the progress you made. Because if you're like me and you're getting older and you realize that, man, my health matters and fitness matters, and if I want to live a longer, healthier life, then losing weight's a good idea. Maybe that's you, but maybe it's financial. And so, that's really what happens when people come to talk to me as a financial planner. They want to have goals that relate to their financial life. So maybe for you, that's what it is. In fact, that might be this week's class collaboration question. I'm not sure I've posted that yet, but I'm going to think about putting that in this week's assignment. So just ask yourself the question. And maybe it's too personal for you to share in public, but I hope you'll answer it for yourself. If we fast forward the clock 3 years, what would have to happen in your life for you to feel good about the progress you made? I'm hoping that in this course, in this semester, you will make a decision, identify some goals, and do some things that will really move the needle for you in terms of progress in your life in 3 years. So that's, to me, one of the reasons financial planning is a very important, valuable resource. So in my experience as a financial planner in the business of financial planning, we like to use metaphors, and I'd say the three most used metaphors would be the puzzle, the roadmap, and the blueprint. So you've all heard, right? The blueprint, if you're going to do a headline for a blog post, you need the 3 keys to master your money, or the blueprint for financial success, or the roadmap to financial security, or whatever. So, but the puzzle, I think, is one that is interesting, because has anybody ever done a 1,000-piece? Isn't puzzlers in here? You've done the big ones, 1,000-piece. You do a lot of them. So how do you do a puzzle if you do a lot of them? Big, lots of pieces. What are some of the things you use as your strategy to put that puzzle together?
Well, you're going to flip them all over, and then you're going to start with a border.
So you flip all the pieces over and you start with a border. Why is that important?
Because there's only so many edge pieces, and once you have the edge, you can work towards it.
Yeah, it makes it easy. It's like cheating. You put the border together, the edges, there's only so many pieces with that shape. It's easier to take those pieces and put them together, right? And that's how you do it. Anything else? Like, is there any other?
I mean, I like to sort them into like colors, and like I'll look at the picture and be like, okay, that probably goes over there, so I'll put all of those in one area and all of those in the other area.
That's brilliant. So Aiden is telling us he's a puzzler, and he likes to go with colors. So he looks at the big picture on the box and he sees the colors, and then he takes the colors and all the colors that are in this area, puts them together. And so it's just basically breaking it down into segments by color, starting with the big picture on the box, which is, to me, like the place to start. If you don't know what the puzzle is you're trying to put together, it will never come together. I mean, I think that's true. Would you say that's true, Aiden?
Yeah.
At least it helps. Maybe when you see the big picture on the box, it would motivate you to say, hey, that's going to be a cool. You'll know that the yellow goes to the car. Am I right? Like when you set all that yellow together, you know you're trying to build a car. So now you have the outline of a car if you looked at the big picture on the box. So yeah, that's the puzzle metaphor. And then the question, what is a financial plan? This may be a little bit out of order. This is the first time I've used this slide deck. And so when I started this lesson a long time ago, I wanted to Google financial planning and learn what's out there about financial planning. And if you go to Investopedia, the first thing it says is that a financial plan is a document. So did you know that? Would you think of a financial plan as a document? I mean, it could be a document. The way I look at it, most of all, it's a process. So just like putting that puzzle together, if you're a financial planner, you need a process. That's why I developed the blueprint, because I needed a process. And probably the most popular of all of the metaphors is that it's a roadmap. But it's all of those things and much, much more, in my opinion, because it can really make a difference. Roadmaps and dinosaurs. I love to camp, and I was a State Farm agent for many years, and the number one thing that I would do for clients, we had this thing called a State Farm Road Atlas. I was going to bring one of those to show you. Has anybody ever handled a road atlas? I'm seeing people shake. Do you know what it is? Kind of. It's so funny because when I was your age, a road atlas was awesome. If you're going to go on a trip, a road atlas is like a book of maps that connects the entire United States and the road system. And so we had all kinds of road atlases at State Farm. We were known for the State Farm Road Atlas. They came out in all different versions you could possibly imagine. When Disney did the Cars movie, we had the Cars branded road atlases. That was the funnest series to give away. But they had, my favorite road atlas was always the big road atlas. So the ones most people wanted, I always gave my clients a choice. Do you want the big one or the small one? I love the big one because the big one has way more detail. And if you're a camper, which I am, and you're driving your Winnebago, you want to see as much detail on that map as you can, right? So I'm telling you about a road atlas, which is like the dinosaurs. It no longer exists, because it was replaced by this gizmo. My dad had a navigation system. Before smartphones came out, you know what I'm talking about? If you ever watched The Office, you guys ever watch The Office? Michael, the crazy... So do you remember the episode where he drove into the road? I think he was with Jim. You remember that episode? He's driving his car with this navigation device, and it says turn right. And it was Dwayne, I guess he was with, right? He's like, no, don't turn right. There's just water down there. And Michael's like, no, it says turn right. So he turns right, and it says go, a quarter mile or whatever. And Michael drives the car into the water because that's what the navigation system said to do. So anyway, roadmaps are like that. Sometimes they're not real intuitive or interactive. Oh, hey, I want you to meet Maddie. Maddie has never, so you guys, most of you don't know what a road atlas is. Maddie, I have no idea what she will use in place of a road atlas to navigate. What we use on our iPhone today, who knows what it's going to be like. When I was Maddie's age, we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have internet, but this is Maddie. She's my granddaughter. I love Maddie, and I like to say she is mighty, she is wise, and I didn't say this for Lucy, but it's the same thing. She's a terror for her size. That's Maddie. You can clap if you want to. She's adorable. She's real, just like Lucy. So let's talk about the document of a financial plan. Again, this has gone the way, hopefully, has gone the way of the dinosaur, has gone the way of the road atlas. But this is what it used to be. When I started in this business, when I did a financial plan for somebody, it always included this massive document. So I'm trying to I'm mixing my metaphors here maybe, but the financial planning document that we all learned how to put together back in the day was a ton of information. Like that big road atlas, it had tons and tons of detailed information. But how many people do you think knew or even cared about all of the detail that was in that financial planning document? Very few. And so in my business, in my industry, we have all these rules, boundaries, and limitations that make us do certain things. And like we have FINRA and SEC. Do you guys know who SEC is? Have you guys ever heard of Bernie Madoff? So Ponzi scheme, yeah. SEC, FINRA, they were, regulating the industry. They totally missed. He was under the radar. He was able to get away with billions of dollar Ponzi scheme. And so regulation, rules, boundaries, and limitations. When it comes to this business of financial planning, we have tons of rules that require us to do things that don't always make any sense. And this was one of them. It's like building a financial plan with a ton of detail that nobody cares about. But who does care? Who needs to care about the detail? Well, the client needs to know that somebody, the engineer behind the scenes, is paying attention to the details. So if you're the financial planner, you do need to care. Like if I'm going to build a road atlas that's going to help you navigate those highways in the United States, the data matters, right? And so it does matter, but my point is for you and for most people, that ends up on the shelf. That financial plan ends up on the shelf. It's dead. It's dead on arrival. It's never really anything that does anything except make you tired when you have to read it and look at all those charts that don't make sense to you. And that's what we do to people in my business. So what I wanted to do was something different. I wanted to transform the business of financial planning, at least in the context of my life and my work with clients. And so what you guys get to experience this semester in building a financial plan ain't that. It's not a binder. And while it could be a document, like we could export your plan anytime you want, that's not what we're trying to do. We're doing something more like a roadmap. You know, it tells you where you are now, right? If you look at any map, even if you're using Google Maps or your iPhone map, it's going to tell you where you are and where you're going and what's in between here and there and how you get there. That's the big idea of a roadmap. Here again, roadmaps and dinosaurs. Just to remind you that the dinosaurs, they didn't evolve and they were extinct. Roadmaps have evolved, and they're now something very different than the road atlas. I miss the road atlas. I still like looking at road atlases, but the functionality of a road atlas is very limited compared to what I can do with my iPhone. Would you agree with that? Even if you don't know what a road atlas is, just having a little introduction to having a book in your lap while you're driving, you got to know that's probably dangerous, right? So you need a navigator, but now you have a navigator that talks to you, that sits wherever your phone is, or if you're using your car navigator, significantly superior. And that's what I'm going to show you, is how to do a financial plan, how to create and build a financial plan that's significantly superior, one that is in your phone. Yes, we have a mobile app. Now, what I've found is most students go through this course, build a financial plan, and that they're just doing it for the grade. And that's fine. I'm going to make it easy for you, and you're going to learn a lot. But I would hope that a few of you decide that this is a valuable resource and you take full advantage of all the technology that's involved in what I'm delivering in this course. And one of the things is, you know, you get to go from a road atlas to an iPhone app, one that shows you your money and you can interact with, and it's pretty cool. But the blueprint is still the framework. It's still the fundamental idea that I like, that I use when I talk about financial planning. Because a blueprint is about building. And to me, we're building something. I want to help you build something. And I want to help you manage money, and I want it to be based on what matters most to you. So the blueprint is designed in a certain way. The first part is the foundation, and we'll talk about that. The second part I call the framing, and the third part I call the finish work. So this is a picture of when I wrote Make Your Money Count. I hired an illustrator, Taylor Springle. Taylor, if you're watching on Facebook, good say something, leave a comment. But Taylor is a friend of mine, and he did the illustrations. So when I thought about the blueprint, one of the things I was trying to do is solve a problem that I had as a financial planner, and that is when you come to me and you're 50 years old and you've got all these different accounts and all these different insurance policies and all this different information, and you bring it to me in this big pile of paperwork, which happens all the time. It's like, this is the problem I'm trying to solve for me. I want to solve your problem too, but I have to figure out how to solve my problem. So this was what it felt like in the blueprint it's like the blueprint to the rescue. Do you like that illustration? I love that. It's one of my favorites. It's like a couple coming into my office as we're getting ready to do a financial plan. They got all their junk and they want me to help them organize it, put it together, and make sense out of it. That's my job. So yeah, I guess this illustration, it leaves me touched, moved, and inspired, but not so much you. I get that. Again, it's an actual blueprint. This is what it looks like. It's got a foundation. The center part is the second part rather is the framing, and then the third part is the goals. So the foundation is the key. When I meet with a client, the first thing I want to do is understand, like I want you to understand, you know, what's your purpose? What's your vision and what's your values? Because put yourself in my shoes. If you're a financial planner and you're going to help someone put a plan together, it would be a whole lot easier if you understood what matters most to that person. And so there's a series of questions that I ask to try to help that person, you know, get clear about that. And I'd love to ask you those questions. I'd really like for you to ask yourself some questions, which you're going to do this semester. But those questions you'll be asking yourself throughout your lifetime. And as you engage in the process of financial planning as you get older, you'll constantly be asking yourself those questions. Like, what are my values? What really matters to me? What's my purpose? And the more that you translate that into your financial behavior, the better your life is going to come out. And the easier it's going to be for you to use the discipline that is required to achieve financial success. Does that make sense? So you can do planning without that. Most people do. Most people in my business, it's all about what do you want to do with your money? Like it's all the technical stuff. Because we have to do the technical stuff. But what I'm saying and what I've tried to do in my career is take it to a whole different level. And I want you to take it to a whole different level. I want you to think about your financial plan in the context of your life. What do you want to do with your life, and how does money help you achieve that? And then build a financial plan. If you just approach this like it's all about what you can learn or the technical stuff related to personal finance and investing, it's going to be pretty meaningless. It's going to be like that big binder. It's not going to matter. So that's the foundation of the blueprint. When I think about what matters most, I have to think about my wife, Connie. I want to introduce you to my wife, Connie. She, again, is mighty. She is wise, and you can tell I didn't spend a lot of time editing these slides. She is a terror for her size. That's Lovey. That's what the grandkids call her. That's Connie. That's my wife. That's Caleb. He's a little older than that now. But when I think about what matters most to me, it's my wife, Connie, who comes to my mind first. And so whatever it is for you, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of reflect on, for me, what matters most. Why do I spend so much time engaging in personal finance for myself? Why do I care about being financially secure and financially independent? It's so that my life with Connie can be as good as it possibly can be, because I want to do that for Connie. We're going to talk about different areas of personal finance throughout this semester. Some of them have to do with caring for people you love, and they have nothing to do with you in terms of what's in it for you. It's all about taking care of the people you love. And so as you get older, that becomes more and more relevant, more and more important. When you get to be my age, it becomes kind of the main game of financial planning. And we're going to talk about some of those things as we go forward. But I just wanted to introduce you to my beloved. So part one is the foundation. You can see on the blueprint what matters most to you. That's the focus of the first part of the conversation, the first part of the process when I engage a client. The second part is what I call, it's the framing and the metaphor of a blueprint. But what I call it is the fearless financial inventory. So when I sit down with someone to do a financial plan, or if I just have a meeting with you, like sometimes students will come to me and say, I want to talk to you about my personal finance. So what happens is I start asking very personal questions. That's why I call this a fearless financial inventory, because if you're 50 years old or 45 years old and you come to me for some help with your financial plan, I want to see everything. That's the only way I can really do you any good, is if I know everything about your financial life. So the blueprint, the second section in the blueprint is really to get all of your financial information together. Again, this semester you're going to do that in a way that's way more intuitive. You're going to use technology in a way that makes it a whole lot easier, but it's still the same approach, and it always will be in your financial life. A financial plan requires you to have all of the information related to your financial life in the financial plan. I call it the fearless financial inventory. Second part of the blueprint. Then the third part, this is where we get down to your goals. Specific goals. Like no plan works for you, the client. No plan works for you, and no plan works for me, the advisor, the planner, the professional, if we don't have clarity around what is it we're trying to achieve. So a financial plan has to have very clear goals. Like you said, Campbell, it can be retirement or education, or maybe it's a saving and prioritizing the spending. you get to make up your own goals. You're going to make your own goals this semester in your financial plan. But I want you to think about those goals. Like, what are they specifically? Because if your goal isn't really specific, then it's going to be difficult to work towards achieving it, you know? And if I'm a financial planner working for you and you're not clear about your goals, it's going to be impossible for me to help create a plan that helps you achieve those goals. One more thing I'd say about goals is, remember in the first part, what matters most, the foundation of the blueprint? Imagine how much more meaningful and powerful your planning would be if you were able to have goals that you knew were clearly connected to what matters most to you. Like, for example, if I have a goal for educating Caleb, my grandson, if what matters most to me is I want to leave a legacy, I want to do everything I can do within my power to do the most good I can do while I'm on this planet. And there's nobody on this planet I'd rather touch than my grandson Caleb. I love the little guy. So in the context of financial planning, I may have some goals to set aside money to make his life better. Maybe college, maybe trade school, like where I went. I went to trade school before I went to college. I learned how to make money fixing cars. I would love for Caleb to have a trade that he can use to make money. But I think Caleb would be an amazing athlete. So maybe it's gymnastics or whatever it is. I want to have money set aside so that Caleb gets to do whatever he wants to do, so that he can expand and grow and learn and be as productive and happy as he can be. That's what I want to do. It's part of what matters most to me. And so how can I take a goal and connect it to that? Now this goal is exciting to me, right? It's not just blah, blah, blah. And that's what I hope you'll do, is consider your goals and how they connect to what matters most to you. Because when that happens, it makes a big difference. Yes?
I guess this is a question, like, do you ask, or like previously, like in financial planning, do you ask them to make their goals like realistic?
Yes, that's a great question. When I'm working with a client and we're talking about goals, do I ask them to make their goal realistic? I think what you're saying is, do I require them to have a realistic goal? So the answer to that is always, so it's your goal. If you're hiring me to help you achieve a goal, it's your goal. And so I got to wrap my head around it to the best of my ability. But what I really do, I don't dictate what your goals should be, obviously. But if you have a really ridiculous goal, like for example, if I came into my office and I said to myself, self or Jim or Mr. Financial Planner, I want to be an NBA basketball player within 5 years. What would you do with that? Like, you probably couldn't work. I probably couldn't work with me. I would probably end up saying to myself, self, Jim, client, you're out of here. I can't do that for you. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. You know, how do you deal with goals that aren't realistic? Another example I'll give you is Zaharia. It starts with his last name was Zaharia. I'm trying to remember his first name. I had just become a financial planner, and I was inviting my State Farm clients to come in and do a financial review. And I was going to offer to do a financial plan for this man. And when I called him in, he was kind enough to come in. He had a lot of insurance with me. He was a very successful dude. This guy's story is he was living in Ukraine, or is it Ukrainia? Ukraine, thank you. So oddly enough, I believe it was Ukraine. It was one of those like Baltic states in Europe. He was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. And what do you call it when you leave the country and you take the plane with you? There's a word for that. Politically, I'm having a, come on, what's the word? You don't emigrate, you what? I didn't hear you. What do you do when you leave a country? Like, there's a word for it. Come on, somebody give me the word for it. Let's see, I'm looking. Jose, you're not giving me the word for it. What was that? I didn't hear.
Political asphalt?
It could be, but oh man, what do you call that? When you leave a country like the Soviet Union or communist China, you have to sneak out. They would kill you if they caught you, but you do it anyway. And not deserting. That's like what you're doing, but there's a word for it. It's seeking asylum is close, but seeking asylum can be done legally. It's not hijack. Like he did hijack the plane and escape, but there's a word for it. And I'm going to kick myself and be like, why couldn't I remember that silly word? It's a very common thing when you escape from a country. Anyway, that's what this dude did. So imagine he's a fighter pilot. What was that?
Refugee?
No, it's not refugee, because you can be a refugee and just escape for your life. This is like a political person who, it's a political term. You
Defectors?
leave. What was that?
Defectors?
Yes, he defected. He left his country with the airplane. He was a defector. I think that's the word. I don't know why I couldn't remember it, but thank you. Is that you, Charles? No.
That was me.
Okay, cool. Oh, no? Jono? Oh, it's Joseph.
Jonah, yeah.
Oh, Jono. Okay, cool. Thank you. Anyway, so think about it. This dude came into my office. He was a fighter pilot. He was a defector. He was a very, very courageous dude. And you know what he wanted? What his goal was? He wanted to hire me to help him make money. He wanted me to help him make money, and he had a percentage in mind, like 20% a year. It's like, I'll hire you if you can help me do that. It was not a realistic number. He was day trading, and he was making that kind of money at the time. We were in a bull market. So that's one example of a goal that someone had when they wanted to hire me as a financial planner. And I'm like, nope, can't do it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but when you have a goal and you work with a professional who's going to help you with a plan, the goal does need to be somewhere in the realm of possibility. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. But good question. Any other questions? I'm going to take a breath. I don't see any questions in the chat in Zoom. No questions in the room, so I'm going to keep going. You guys met Caleb, isn't he cute? Again, he is mighty, he is wise, and he's a terror for his size. I just thought I'd share that. So the financial planning process does involve documents. It does involve strategies. And again, it is a process. And I think it's mostly a process. Like, it doesn't end. I have a company that does investment management and financial planning, and I just finished my securities review. That's what the regulators do to you. It's a painful experience. But one of the things they asked me to produce was a list of all the clients that I delivered a financial plan to. And I said 0. Doesn't mean I didn't do financial planning, but to me, it's never done. If you're my client, I'm not going to give you a plan and say, sign here, it's done. But that's what they expect. That's what they wanted. So here are some financial planning documents you might think of. There are more documents you could think of relative to financial planning, and they're part of the process, but they're really just pieces of the puzzle. Strategies. So I want you to, and this again it's part of the blueprint, it's part of what I wrote in my book, Make Your Money Count. these are kind of sort of the 7 essential elements of financial planning. So if you became a certified financial planner, these would be essentially the 7 areas of personal finance that you would learn, that you would study, that you would have to master. So the first one, financial independence, that is retirement. I think that's okay. So let me go through this. This is how it works, a financial plan. What does it do? How does it work? So goals and priorities are part of it. And we break those down, prioritizing them into needs, wants, and wishes. That's part of the process. Your big idea is to save more money, pay lower taxes. I'm going to teach you how to build a better retirement. But mostly what I think of financial planning, how it works, why it's important, is because it helps you. You're going to learn how to become a millionaire by the time you're 50. That's the easy part. But what's really valuable to me is to help you have more clarity and more confidence and contentment in your life. And with a plan, if you know what you're doing, you're going to have more contentment. If you have a lot of uncertainty and you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a plan, you're going to have a higher level of risk. Not risk, a higher level of what?
Anxiety.
Thank you. That's what I meant to say. Not risk, but anxiety. Risk as well, but anxiety. Uncertainty breeds anxiety. Clarity breeds confidence. And when you put those together, you naturally have more contentment. When I was working on Wall Street, I was in the wealth management department at Morgan Stanley. I was in their 3-year training program. And when I got in that program, they made a point to tell all of us that you're one of 20,000 people who applied for this job in this training program. Why are you shaking your head? No.
I mean, the level of competition.
The level of...
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering about the applicant was like 20,000 people and you were just picked of 20,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought a lot of that statistic because the way I experienced it was they were really happy to have me and everyone else there because everyone else in that room had 15 offers from other companies. How many people got in? That's a great question. So when I went to corporate, Morgan Stanley is in a place called Purchase, New York, and they have their own complex. And so only the people who were in the training program from around the country would come there. And we were in a room about twice the size of this. So there were, I want to say we had 150 trainees from around the country. So 12 of us may have been from Houston, 4 of us from this part of Houston. So I think it was a couple hundred. I'm not sure, but it wasn't like 1,000. It was a couple hundred. And so they wanted us to all know that we were one of 20,000 people who tried to get this job. It was a great training program. If anyone ever out there wants to do what I do, I think I have the best job on the planet. I really do. The opportunity's phenomenal, but I own my own company today. I didn't get here by not going through all the hoops. So I would encourage you, no matter what you want to do, I would encourage you to learn everything you need to learn so that you can be an independent business owner, so that you don't have a boss. Because I don't want a boss. I'm a good boss for me. I'm probably not a great boss for you because I would put my expectations on you just like I put them on me, but I do really well as my own boss, and that's what I wanted to do. But I had to work for other bosses to learn what I needed to learn to be able to feel confident that I could deliver what I can deliver today as a financial advisor and as an investment advisor. And so my point is, I went to Morgan Stanley. I thought they were the best ones on Wall Street. I got the job, I got in the training program, but when I showed up in the training program, remember I had written my book years before, I developed the blueprint years before, now I'm in this training program with a lot of younger people. And this training program is phenomenal. And one of the things we did is they brought in professional actors who were actually clients of Morgan Stanley, and they brought them in to help train us. And we had to go through what we called role play. Do you guys know what role play is? It was very realistic. It was a really great training program at Morgan Stanley in the wealth management department. It really was. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity. But I'll never forget one of the training days we had was we would meet with 3 different couples. It was role play, and we would be basically selling them on the idea of helping them design a financial plan so that we could get their money as an investment, because that's how it works on Wall Street. It's all about getting their money as an investment, right? And the best way to do that, always, the best way to get somebody's money to earn their trust is to convince them that you have a plan, that you can create a plan. So it's like on Wall Street, in insurance companies, any place they call themselves financial advisors, they will give away financial planning so that they can get you to trust them so that they can sell you their stuff. Does that make sense? That's different than a real financial plan. But anyway, what we were doing in this role play, I just figured I'd do what I really do for real. And so I was explaining to these pretend clients that one of the things I could do is help them have more clarity by building a plan, developing a plan, and that would give them more confidence. And as we work together and do that, they would experience more contentment in their financial life. I mean, I said it just like I would describe a strawberry sundae, which I'm very fond of. It was like, I can do this for you. This is what I do. Do you know what they told me at the end when they do the evaluations on the role play? Do you know what these professional actors who were hired to help train us, who were giving us constructive criticism at the end of the role play, do you know what they told me?
You're too unrealistic.
Exactly, that I was too unrealistic. That was too warm and fuzzy. That would never work. I'm like, excuse me? It works every day. It's real. Like financial planning, when you do it right, when you help somebody really get clear about what matters most to them, their vision, their values, their purpose, when you really listen and you ask the right questions, and then you put together a plan so that their goals are connected to that, too warm and fuzzy? Are you serious? No, we just want you to do it our way. Your goal here, they told me, is to get the investments, to get the assets under management. And what you're doing, it's just not linear enough. It's not going to be focused enough. You're not going to be able to be successful in this program. You're not going to be successful on Wall Street. You're not going to be successful at Morgan Stanley. I was like, okay, whatever. But that's a true story. And so what I'm trying to teach you this semester is what I've experienced in my own life, what I've seen other people experience in their own life, and it's about financial planning in a way that really connects your money to your life, to your purpose. So here's back to the financial strategies. And again, remember these 7 elements of financial planning. These are the basic things you learn when you become a certified financial planner. But there's another level as well. In addition to how this impacts your money, which is what everybody wants, it's the real deliverable, every one of these elements has a financial bottom line impact on you, but it also has a very relevant impact on your life, each one of these, whether it's financial independence or education funding, like I was telling you about Caleb, and cash flow management. Cash flow management is really important. So I want to run through these real quick. Financial independence, again, this is another word for retirement planning, okay? So if you study as a CFP, if you become a CFP, they don't call it financial independence, they call it retirement planning. Same thing. And for you, you know, the big idea of becoming a millionaire by the time you're 50, that's retirement planning. It's getting yourself in a position where when you're 50 or sooner or somewhere around there, you have the option to do whatever you want to do with your life. You don't have to keep working. You have to work at that. You have to have a plan to do that. So that's the first strategy, like that's the first thing we want to go after, or one of the things we want to go after in every financial plan. Next is risk management. This is insurance. Now, we're going to spend one session on insurance this semester. And insurance is important because it's like one of the most expensive components of your budget. And so my goal is to help you become an informed consumer so that you know how to make good choices with your insurance, because it's expensive and it's important. And so it's a big part of financial planning. So that's why it's on this list. Whether we're talking about home, car insurance, life insurance, disability. I got a call yesterday from one of my clients about long-term care insurance. It's a very important part of insurance. It's not on this list, but long-term care. 1 in 2 people in America are going to experience a long-term care scenario. Does any of you have a grandparent or parent or aunt or uncle who's in a long-term care facility or being cared for? I don't see any hands. It's a small group, but trust me, you're going to see it in your life. And so it's another part of risk management. It's part of financial planning. Estate planning, another element of financial planning. It's for when you die. This is one of those things you do for the people you love. It's not going to do you much good, but half of my clients are women. And half of them were married and their spouse died. Women live longer than men. And they were my clients. They were alive. I lost one client in COVID. I lost a couple of clients. They just died of different things. One died from cancer. But my point is, the wife, the woman, the spouse that was left behind, you know, the work that we did in financial planning when he was still alive was all about her. Does that make sense? That's part of financial planning, is you have a lot of decisions that you make so that when you're gone, the people that you love are cared for. That's called estate planning. It's a really important strategy. It's an important piece or part or element of financial planning. And you're going to get a little exposure to that, not much. But I just wanted you to know. Education funding, I don't think of education funding just as saving money for college. There's so many other things that fall under that category. And like I said, with Caleb, and that's Maddie up there, she was just born, but that's Caleb and his sister Maddie. They're both my grandchildren, and that's Lovey, Connie, my wife. And so one of the beautiful things we get to do with our money is try to figure out ways that we can spend it to invest in their lives for education. And education is a wide range of things. Maddie went to dance, or tomorrow Maddie will go to dance class. Caleb didn't really like dance class. Actually, Caleb loved dance class. Guess who didn't love dance class for Caleb?
Dad?
Yeah. Dad said it one time. He said, "You're a boy. You don't go to dance. You're not going to learn how to, you don't need." He said something like that, and Caleb's response was, what? I don't want to go to dance class anymore. So I think he would have loved it. So anyway, he's great on a scooter. I think he's going to make an awesome snow skier. I'm going to teach him how to ride a motorcycle. There's so many things I want to invest in for both of these kids, but that to me is education funding. It's part of financial planning. It's a big part of financial planning. And then there's obviously tax planning. taxes go into so many things in personal finance, and you're going to get to experience some of that this semester so that you have a good handle on how tax planning is baked into your financial plan. So that'll be part of this semester as well. And then this is everybody's favorite topic, is investment strategies or investment management, investing. And so I'm going to teach you this semester about investing so that when you graduate and you start that dream job, day one, you're going to know what to do. I'm going to teach you 4 investment strategies that are specifically designed to help you minimize risk and maximize return. And I'm going to teach those to you in the context of tax-advantaged investing. But you're going to learn enough about investing to know exactly what to do when you get started in your first job after college. So that's exciting to me. Investment strategies, again, that's the most popular topic in the course. We could spend the whole semester on it, but we won't. Next, cash flow management. This is basically budgeting, accounting, being accountable, and it's critical to every financial plan. Okay, cash flow management is just, it's part of every financial plan. Any questions? Okay, we're wrapping things up. I think I have a few repeat slides coming up. Financial planning strategies. So again, these are technical things that you do in financial planning, but they're also really important elements in terms of planning your life. And so that's what I want you to think about as we go through this semester and you start to engage in financial planning. I want you to think about when you're my ripe old age with your old significant other and you're enjoying life, doing things you always wanted to do. That's what I get to do. And part of that is because I learned some things early on about financial planning that gives me the ability to do that with the one I love. And so that's that. Now I think I have some repeat slides here where you get to meet Lucy. Again, she is mighty, she is wise, she's a terror for her size, and that's my dog, Lucy. She's a real, very real person. That photo, that was the very first, or one of the first photos I took when I got an iPhone 7 Plus. Do you know why I got an iPhone 7 Plus? No, of course you don't know. Because, what did you say?
So you wouldn't have to use an atlas?
So I wouldn't have to use a road atlas. No, I never upgrade my phone. The one I'm using right now is an iPhone 13 Pro Max. It's like the maximum phone you can get. And the only reason I did that is because of this camera that it has, because it's really awesome. Well, the iPhone 7 Plus was the first iPhone that came out that had the portrait. You know what a portrait photo is, right? Oh, thank you. So I was excited. I finally upgraded because they gave me a reason to upgrade. So my iPhone 7 Plus had the portrait mode on the photo, and that was one of the first photos I took right there, Lucy. That has to leave you touched, moved, and inspired. But it doesn't. Okay, the rest of these. So I could show you these pictures again, but I'm not going to. So let's talk about homework. Before we do that, any questions? Any questions? No questions? I'm going to look at the chat and see if there's any questions. Okay, let's talk about the homework. This week's homework assignment is probably one of the most special assignments we have for you. It's called the parental interview. And the reason we call it the parental interview is because the goal is, the instructions are that you actually interview a parent. It doesn't have to be a parent, it could be a grandparent. It could be an uncle or an aunt. But it's supposed to be somebody in that age group that's above you, a generation above you. So if you interview your roommate, you're going to get a big deduction. I'm just telling you. And every semester that happens, it's like, oh, I interviewed my roommate. Or I interviewed my friend or my cousin or someone else that I admire. because that's a big part of the assignment, is for you to select, to interview someone who you want to learn from, someone that you believe has some wisdom to share with you in the context of money. So that's the assignment. It's called the parental interview. But again, it could be an aunt, it could be an uncle, it could be a grandparent. Ideally, it's someone that you look at in your life and you say, like for me, it was my Uncle Hank. Remember I told you about one of my clients who she is still here, but he is no longer here. Well, he is Hank. Hank was my uncle. Hank passed. And so Hank was the guy in our family where ever since I've been married, when Connie and when I first took her to Kentucky to meet my family, she met Uncle Hank. And from the first time she met him, when we were first married, we've been married almost 100 years. We got married a long time ago. But when she first met my Uncle Hank, from then on, every time we had a decision to make, every time there was something challenging, she would say, "What would Hank do?" He was that guy, okay? That's who I want you to find in your life, and I want you to interview them. I did that with Hank. I got to do that with my Uncle Hank. He was one of the people I interviewed in Make Your Money Count. In the chapter called First Memories of Money. You're going to have that chapter to read this semester, or this week. First Memories of Money. And so one of the questions you're going to ask, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, what are your first memories of money? Like maybe it was the tooth fairy. Maybe it was your birthday when you were really young. But whatever it is, maybe it was your first paycheck. Like for me, I tell my stories in Make Your Money Count, my first memories of money. Some of them are really good, some of them are not good. Some of them are very emotional though. And usually when I ask people this question, a lot of times nobody's ever asked that question to them. And so they start to think, just like some of you are doing now. You're thinking about that first memory of money when you were, the very first time you can remember, oh, money. Maybe it was coins, maybe it was the tooth fairy, like I said, or your birthday, money you got. For me, it was like my first paycheck. I remember how I had to earn it. My wife, her first paycheck, when I asked her the question, it was her first paycheck at Catfish Parlor. It's in the book. You have to read it. But it's one of the questions I want you to ask when you interview. What's your first memory of money? Maybe it was your first paycheck, and you'll set the table. The instructions give you good instructions. But here's the thing I want to stress. This assignment is like no other assignment you're going to have this semester. Hey there, are you in this class? You are late.
No, it starts at 11:30.
Oh, you're the 11:30. You're early. Come on in. You can come in. So this assignment is like no other assignment you're going to have. And the reason I say that is because I want you to know that when you have this conversation with this person that you choose to have this conversation with, it could be an emotional conversation, because when you ask the questions that you're going to ask that are in the instructions, sometimes there's a good deal of shame, embarrassment, and so just be ready for that. And no matter what happens in this interview, I want you to be prepared to acknowledge that this person is sharing their wisdom with you. So I want you to be grateful, I want you to be respectful, and I want you just to be aware that it could be painful. But always thank them, listen, pay attention. You don't have to take notes. You won't need to take notes. You will remember this. And I hope that it impacts you, and I hope that it impacts them to know that you selected them to interview for this assignment because you want to know, you want to gain from their wisdom. So that's the assignment this week. Again, it's one of the most special assignments. Charles, that's a good question. Charles wants to know if he can interview me. I don't think that'll work though, bro. Kind of breaks the rules, but hey, I appreciate it. I think that's it. Any questions? Going once, going twice. I'm going to go get some water. You guys on Zoom, I'm going to go ahead and finish this one. If you have any questions, speak up. Speak up. Okay, I'm going to finish. I'm going to end.